So Margaret, here we are on this chilly, windy day. We're going to be talking about soil health and the soil health pyramid. There's three parts. There's composition, nutrients, and microbiology.
Yeah, so the soil health is just foundational to all of our work and efforts in the garden and the productivity of that garden. So it's really essential to start thinking about what that means. So that first level, the composition, is thinking about the soil texture and the soil structure.
Right.
And the texture is going to be what we're given in our soil, the sand, silt, clay, materials. And then the structure is how those soil materials are held together to create form and pore space and a house for all of the living organisms. So the plants are sending down these roots into the soil.
Right.
And they're going to grow as deep as they can and abundantly as they can. And those roots are both holding up the plant, but they're also the site of nutrient and water absorption. And so the more roots we have, the more nutrients and water that plant can take up. And the more exploratory those roots are, the more they can go hunting for nutrients and water. So having good soil structure allows and supports those roots to go deeper and more places. Also part of that soil structure is this essential component of soil organic matter. And soil organic matter tends to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% in soils. And soil organic matter is that animal and plant detritus at all stages of decomposition. It's that really dark material at the top of your soil.
Like the humus or...
Yes, humus is a part of it. And what is so special and unique about soil organic matter is its shape and surface area. So it has this porous, jagged surface area, kind of like the way a sponge might look, or a piece of lava rock. And that type of surface allows nutrients to attach to it and hold. It allows water to find its way in. It allows microbes to take up residence, and also larger organisms like earthworms to move through. And so this soil organic matter provides a numerous physical benefits like structure, but also chemical benefits like this nutrient holding capacity. We really want to encourage that organic matter buildup.
Especially like we have clay soils here, so to add compost would help break up the soil and make it a little less clay-like and then more like what you're talking about.
Absolutely. Like an annual application of vermicompost would help improve that soil structure.
The second part of the pyramid are nutrients. Can you tell us a little about that?
Absolutely. So nutrients are the plant food, and there are essential nutrients that plants need. And the ones that they need the most are those macronutrients, the N, P, and the K. That's what you see written on the label.
What does the NPK stand for?
Nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And so that's what we're going to add usually in fertilizers or somewhat in the compost. And they need to be provided in sufficient amounts for your plants. And really the only way to know if you have enough is to get a soil test. It's not that challenging to take a soil test and send it off to a lab, and for $30 or $40 you can get this full profile of your macro and micronutrients and some other important pieces of information like pH and soil organic matter. From this soil test then, they often will give you guidance on how much you need to add of each of those in order to grow a tomato plant or a summer squash. So that's really going to give you that guidance. And with all the money and time and love that you put into your garden, this $30 or $40 is going to go a long way. And nitrogen is one in particular, a nutrient in particular that we need to pay attention to because it's really dynamic. It doesn't stick around in the soil. It will move with water. It will volatilize.
So what ties it all together is the microbiology, right?
Yes, those microbes are working hard in the soil. And they're the ones really doing all the work. So we talked about that structure. Well, it's the microbes who are exuding these exudates that have sticky, gummy consistency, and they're holding together those soil particles. And then you have the fungi that are growing these hyphae that are wrapping around particles and giving it structure.
Moving through the soil,
Moving through the soil, creating little niches. But then these microbes are also releasing enzymes that are breaking down the nutrients and making them plant available. So this nutrient exchange is really facilitated by microbes.
Right.
So they're absolutely essential to all the activity and the health of the soil. And we can support those microbes by feeding them. And the way that we feed them is by giving them soil organic matter to chew on,
right,
giving them fertilizers and nutrients to break down. One of the fastest microbial foods is going to be those liquids like the vermi extract. It has these quickly available sugars that stimulate that microbial activity. But also more complex foods like the vermicompost is going to give them a longer term source of nutrients to be breaking down.
And we can add that when we plant, right? Like a cup. Right.
So a great time to add those microbial foods are in the springtime when you're planting and prepping your soils.
Right.
And they'll be chewing on it all through that warm season. As long as there's moisture and warm weather, those microbes will be active and facilitating this nutrient exchange and these soil building aspects.
So it's kind of all three parts that make that soil pyramid do its thing and create a really strong and healthy garden, right? Healthy soil.
Yeah, exactly. So as gardeners, we're really trying to think about how can we create the best environment for our plants to grow in.
Right.
And so we're thinking about that physical structure, we're thinking about the nutrients and the nutrient availability, and we're trying to think about how do we manage and support those microbes that are actually doing the work for us.
Right.